So hello, we've got Suzy here, Suzy Redding, who is the author of lots of books, and also I think a little bit of a self-care guru. And I don't know if you've used that word, Suzy, but I certainly find all of your work really inspiring. And for those of you who I haven't met before, I'm Sakina, and I'm the founder of Strength of Birth. So I work with expectant and new parents transitioning through the birth journey. So I'm really excited to have you here, Suzy. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you very much for having me, Sakina. I'm just thrilled to have the opportunity to shed some light on self-care and hopefully blow some barriers away.
Yeah, lovely. So I want to start actually just by introducing the work that I first found of yours, which sort of really opened my eyes to the way in which you work, which for me was really practical, accessible and easy. So for those of you who haven't seen it, this is the book that I sort of first came across with Suzy, which is Self-Care Revolution. And of course you share lots and lots of other things, and you've got some new stuff coming out soon too, which we're going to talk about. But would you be happy, like, just to start us off, just to share how you got into this, because you have a really multi sort of discipline background, don't you?
I do, yeah. There are lots of different strings to my bow, and to be honest with you, as I was journeying through my career, they haven't always made sense. But I originally trained as a psychologist, so I'm a chartered psychologist, but I didn't practice when I first qualified, because in my early 20s, I figured, who's going to come and see a psychologist who hasn't lived a great deal? And it just so happened that I'd moved to the UK, and I fell back on my my part-time job as I was going through university, working as a personal trainer, because Australian personal trainers are very highly regarded in this country. And I fell into it, really. And I ran that business for 7 years, and it was a really thriving practice where that's where I learnt firsthand how powerful it is using the body, using movement, using breath, using different shapes to cultivate a different mood state. So I sort of jokingly called it therapy by stealth. I was still creating change and helping people live their best lives, but it was using movement. That's where I did my yoga teacher training qualifications as well, and that is such a beautiful bridge between the mind and the body. But it was life experience of motherhood colliding with the terminal illness of my father that really made self-care a passion of mine, because I learned firsthand that it doesn't matter what toolkit you have. When life throws curveballs like the one I experienced, no one is immune. No one is immune from energetic bankruptcy. And I think until you have really, truly appreciated the value of self-care, the importance of self-care, until you give yourself permission to do it, it doesn't matter how many tools you've got in your toolkit. You need to have that awareness that it's okay to do it. And it's not only okay, it's 100% necessary.
And I think that's such an important aspect to this, because I know, I've come through motherhood that left me really depleted emotionally and also in many ways physically. And I had some tools in my toolkit, but one of the things that I found, and probably a lot of parents find through that massive adjustment, is that sometimes the point that we really need the tools the most, it's actually really hard to get ourselves to access them. And I think that's one of the things I loved about the sort of the way you share, is that you make it really accessible. What would be your sort of tip for parents to be who are going through perhaps that kind of adjustment time emotionally and sleep deprivation, but also when we have our children, that could be stepping into motherhood for the first time, or it could be further down the line where we've got as I have, an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and we feel like we're on this constant sort of continuum, that we know we need these tools. What would be your tip to make us sort of think about how we can access them?
Okay, I think you nail it. When we become parents, that's when we need self-care the most. But simultaneously, that's when it becomes the least accessible available to us. We actually need a whole new toolkit when we become parents of things that do not take time, that take zero energy, that are free as a bird, right? But in that brain squeeze, that's when we're least creative and resourceful to come up with the this whole new toolkit. So that's why I've written these books, to sort of, here it is. When you become a parent, what we need to do is dot our day with little micro moments of nourishment and care, because it's so overstimulating. It's so relentless. It's not like you can just say, hey, 1 o'clock, 1 hour on Sunday will do it. We need it throughout our day just to help us cope with the stresses of parenthood. So my advice there is just get well versed with tiny little rituals and skills that you can check in with throughout your day. It can be as simple as zooming in on something you find captivating about your child, the tiny little hairs around their lip, their beautiful lustrous eyelashes, right? Gaze on that, drink it in. It can be being with your breath. It can be a single yoga pose, a tree pose while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. Or my favorite, it can be some chicken wing shoulder rolls. You knew that was going to get a mention at some point. Yeah, where we release tension, but this also helps us breathe better. And when you breathe better, you feel better. And then really my number one tip for poor, frazzled, overwhelmed parents, which is what I've experienced, and that is earthing the brow. So that is either with one hand, channel Homer Simpson, press the back of your hand against your forehead, or if you've got two hands free, make a fist, and this soft part at the base of your thumb, gently press that into your forehead as if you're massaging two little goatee horns. And it is literally like hitting the reboot button for your nervous system. Okay, very soothing, very healing, very restorative. And that's really what we need as parents. We need a healing toolkit, because from my experience, there are enormous wounds that we incur along the way, whether it's birth trauma or just that sense of loss of who am I now? It's such an enormous shift that, for a lot of us, there's a real sense of grieving. And we need soothing practices that will help us navigate this enormous transition to allow us to really savor the joyful moments and make peace with the really tough times.
Yeah, and I think that there is so much there. So true. It's that there is that loss, isn't there, as we transition into this space. And the other thing that I think is really useful for us to note is sometimes it's not just what's coming up in that present space, it's the stuff that parenthood brings up for us from our own past, our own lives as children. So we have these really mixed states, and being able to just access something quickly like this is just lovely, or the chicken wings, and actually really important for our bodies. Because when we were doing that, I was thinking, the amount of times I was, carrying sometimes one or two children around all day, and my body was just feeling that fatigue. And that's one of the things.
Yes, it's not just the physical holding, it's the emotional holding too. We are literally holding space for these little beings, and we need to give ourselves the opportunity to just, hey, for a moment, I'm going to drop my day. I'm going to drop my burden. I'm just going to allow myself to be, and I'm going to fill up my energy bank.
Yeah, and lovely, because so often I think self-care is, and I know that this certainly happened for me after I gave birth. It was a spa day, or it was, a dinner out. But actually the reality of it was that it was the daily kind of emotional grind, the physical grind that was getting to me as I was trying to make this adjustment. So a spa day was lovely, and I still had to come back to my everyday life. A dinner out was wonderful, but I was tired and I just wanted to go to bed. And actually, this isn't about a kind of big push, is it? This is about small daily increments that we can give ourselves.
Absolutely. If self-care feels like it's just another thing you've got to do, I mean, we're never going to do it as parents because we are so squeezed already. But if we can see self-care as through the lens of its tenderness, its self-compassion, its kindness, it's savoring, it's these skills, it's how can you make everyday actions kinder, the way you dress, the way you eat, the way you move, the way you breathe, the way you talk to yourself, your little pre-bedtime ritual. Or how can you piggyback some kind of nourishing action onto everyday tasks, like, after you've done a nappy change, savor some hand balm, or while the kettle's boiling, it's doing something to nurture you, but maybe 6 mountain breaths, little things that will change the quality of your day, but it doesn't take a lot of time. It's nothing grand, it's nothing elaborate, it's nothing expensive, but it's something that just allows you to extend a little tenderness and kindness towards yourself.
That's such a lovely message, and I love the fact that it doesn't cost anything, because one of the things I know, you know, when I was on maternity, that everything became squeezed, and you know, gym membership, all those sorts of things were the first things to sort of be knocked off my list of things that I paid for. But the other thing that I really thought of there as well, which I think is so key, and one of the things that I really love about what you share, is that when we give ourselves permission to do this as parents, we're really showing our children that they have permission to do this, and also that we are people too. You know, we are people who need nourishment, so we sort of lead them by our example. And I was really excited. I haven't got my copy yet, it's on its way, but I'm really excited by your ebook, which is Stand Tall Like a Mountain, because this really covers that space, doesn't it? Oh, there it is. It's beautiful.
It does indeed. Yeah, I think as parents, thank you. It's so important as parents that we dot our day with micro moments of care and nourishment. And that's the stuff that allows us to keep giving and keep going, and to pitch up and be the kind of parents that we aspire to be. The fact is, if we want to raise resilient and compassionate kids, one, we've got to be modeling that behavior so that we can be that, but also we need to be empowering them with their own toolkit. And we're already doing that, right? We teach them how to brush their teeth and what constitutes healthy eating and how to safely cross roads. But this broadens the toolkit to looking at how we can nourish them emotionally and mentally. Because I think as parents, actually, we're learning at the same time. So many of these things weren't modeled for us as kids, because, you know, this is just stuff that we're learning about now. So it is a beautiful thing that we can dot our day with micro moments of nourishment for us, but we can also involve our children in that practice. We can do family-based practices, and then we can actually get very bespoke with a self-care toolkit for them, because they need to also have age-appropriate tools in language that they understand, and also to build a little resource library so that they feel empowered. It's about giving them things that they can do in the moment, so that they feel like, okay, I'm feeling like this. It's all right, I can try this. Yeah, rather than feeling like, oh my God, what do? I need to go and outsource that to somebody else. Of course, we're there to guide and support, but really, I see our job as empowering our kids rather than just fixing and sorting it all the time for them. That's the stuff that will you know, serve them best throughout the whole course of their lives.
Absolutely. And the thing is, for, you know, many of us, and I think for myself included, this was stuff I was kind of learning through adulthood, through motherhood. And if I can give my children that from the start, I feel like there's that step up already, and then we're on a journey together, and that's really, really exciting. And actually, these aren't just tools for, you know, simple self-care. This is really tools for life, isn't it? Because how we take care of ourselves, how we can regulate ourselves, serves us not just in parenthood, but it serves us in all of the relationships, our working life, everything really, doesn't it? I mean, this is totally transferable. So whether we're at home with young children, or if we're at work and we've got this kind of busy, hectic
Absolutely
thing. What would be for you, Suzy, do you think, like a really top tip for those who are feeling totally sort of time squeezed, maybe, you know, working the day, say you're in an office, what would be a good quick thing you could do for yourself to just reconnect with yourself, do you think?
Do you know, I think the thing that we are doing all day, every day already, is breathing. And the mantra there is, when you breathe better, you feel better. So I think that would be the number one recommendation, is to just work with the breath. And maybe you can pair that with a mantra so that you are harnessing your mind on something constructive. So a mantra might be something like, I soften into this moment. And as you do that, you feel the sensation of your breath. You consciously release any tension that's held in your body. And you also tap into your posture, because when you sit tall with a long spine and an open-hearted chest, instantly we feel more resourceful, more resilient, more creative. It buoys our mood. So this is something simple, you know, wherever you are, this is something that you can work with: your posture, your breath, and harnessing your mind on something constructive with a mantra.
I really love that, because it's the mantras that, and you actually share those, don't you? On Monday mornings, 9 a.m. on Instagram, you actually have something that anyone can join, don't you? You do a live, is that right? Every Monday? And one of the things you shared this week was a mantra in your feeds, and I have used that mantra all week, including this morning as we were going on the school run. You know, I have more than enough time, and it totally, because we look at this in hypnobirthing, the power of how we speak to ourselves and the impact that has on our kind of nervous system and our sense of not, it's not relaxation, it's sense of well-being, really, isn't it?
Yeah, this is nourishing our health. Self-care is healthcare. Without our health, what do we have? You know, this is really fundamental stuff that, you know, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking. It can be as simple as just a phrase that you repeat to yourself, a simple movement, how you hold your body, being with nature. It's more than we all realize.
Yes, and so profound. I mean, small changes can make a big difference. So, you know, I would love to invite everyone who's watching this to think about one small thing that they could start to put in their day, whether that be a mantra, just changing the posture, using a practical tool like a breath that they can bring in. And please do share with us, share with Suzy, with myself, something that you are bringing in. Give yourself maybe a challenge. So I'm going to do it once a day for 7 days or more, but give yourself maybe a 1 week challenge and see if you can hold that for a week and how that feels. So we'd love to hear, and please do share with us. But Suzy, I want you to just be able to share where people can find out more as well, because obviously I know that you're on Instagram and I follow your stuff on there, but where else can people find out about what you're doing and what's next for you too?
Sure. Well, thank you for mentioning my Monday Micro Moment live Instagram session. That is where we all build the self-care habit together. And I share all of the tips and tools that are helping me. If you're not on Instagram, I'm also on Twitter under Suzy Redding. I'm on Facebook under Suzy Redding Psychology and Yoga. If you're interested in self-care for navigating times of stress, loss and change, and that includes becoming a parent, then Self-Care Revolution is where you'll find all of my tonics. And then from a family perspective, for parents and kids, this is Stand Tall Like a Mountain. That's where you'll find that information. And then I have a new little book baby coming out on the 6th of June, and this is the Little Book of Self-Care. This has 30 new practices that are very soothing and very accessible. Essentially, this is self-care on the go. Okay, so that's the new little one. But all of my bits and pieces you'll find either on social media or my books, and we share the journey together. So I'm so grateful for the feedback that I get. Thank you for the lovely little reviews I get on Amazon for my books. That keeps my publisher happy. So if you've enjoyed any of my books, please leave me a little message there. That would be brilliant. And I gain so much by hearing how you're finding these things, because that really informs me and how I can best be of service. So drop me a line, keep in touch, and let me know how you're going with all of your self-care toolkits.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Suzy. And before we go, I would just like to invite you to join in with the Real Birth Project if you'd be happy to do so. So one of the things that